Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Hillary Jubilee, and today I'm really excited. We're doing a collab with Lorena, and I will let Lorena introduce herself.
Hiya, I'm Lorena. I am a spiritual life coach, and I also teach breathwork. And we just had this fairly semi-spontaneous idea to collaborate on some topics. I'm excited to talk about everything today.
I'm so excited. Okay. So the main topic of part one of this collab that we're doing, releasing the idea of competition. So can I go ahead and start on this?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll obviously talk about this more in part two with self-concept, but releasing the idea of competition, it's like visualizing your best self. So if you're going to be like, if you want to compete with somebody, compete with the old version of yourself, like forget everyone else. If you're, you want to become better than who you were yesterday, rather than, comparing to everyone around you.
Yeah.
It doesn't help you, right? Like what does the best version of you mean to you? So releasing the idea of competition, because like, if you're going to be the best version of yourself and embody that version of yourself, then it doesn't really matter what anyone's doing. Like you're leveling up yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I was going to say is that if you find yourself when you're in a situation that does technically have competition, i.e. like a job interview, let's say, this question comes up a lot. I feel like people ask me this a lot, like, oh, what about, when people are manifesting something, it's like, what about two people who are trying to get the same job, the same position? And, Neville talks about this. And I think essentially he says it would never happen. Like obviously it happens, people compete for the same job, but one person will find something better, one person will change their mind. The person who didn't get it, they might be disappointed, but something better is along the way for them. And you and your reality are going to get, if you focus, and you're going to get what you want in the end. Just going to the end of where you want to be, rather than looking around at all of your competition. It's like changing the perspective.
Yeah. I think it comes back to what you said earlier about, compare yourself to only to yourself and embody the best version of yourself. Because when you're looking around, when you're looking at other people, it's completely irrelevant. Like, you don't need to know, who else is competing for the same thing. You don't need to know what the outcome is going to be for them. It's the same with kind of like this whole third party topic. When people are manifesting relationships with specific people, that sometimes there's this guilt that comes up and this fear of like, but I'm wishing something bad upon this other person. But it's exactly, what you said, like, you don't need to concern yourself with another person. You only need to concern yourself with your desire, because you're not wishing anything bad upon somebody else.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, then you should reconsider where that's coming from. But generally this fear is just coming from insecurity. It's just coming from a low self-concept. And as you said, like, we're going to go deeper into that in part two. But competition, the idea of competition essentially just comes from the idea of you yourself not feeling good enough, maybe, or you yourself trying to logically establish how things could happen, and that's then coming from fear and doubt. So you're not going straight to the end of whatever it is that you do want.
Yeah. And something that just popped into my head when you were saying that is that, with the idea of actual competition, like, let's say an extreme example, the Olympics, for example, right. They visualize themselves crossing the finish line over and over. They're not concerning themselves with like, oh, well, that person's better, or, oh, that person's been training longer. It's like, that's irrelevant. You're like, imagination creates reality. Imagine yourself where you want to be at the finish line.
Yeah, you're holding yourself back if you keep your eyes like on other people. But at the same time, I think we need to acknowledge, because I've had this loads before, and I still get this sometimes, that I get this, you know, if I see somebody else who has something that I want, or if I see somebody else who's like more successful than me, apparently, and that's all a matter of perception anyway, but you know, where's this idea of competition coming from? And I actually listened to a podcast the other week that was about, I think it was about comparison. It was really good. And they said, you know, on a purely scientific level, we compare ourselves as humans because otherwise we wouldn't be able to relate things to each other. You know, you're not going to know whether you're tall or short if you don't know what other people look like. You know, you need to compare yourself to others in order to establish where you're at. So it's also, you know, this comparison is not always a bad thing, but when it impacts your self-worth and when it holds you back, that's when it gets problematic.
Right. And also with comparing yourself to others, like you said, with the tall short example, or even just like, if we're talking about body image, like if you have a certain goal that you want to be, or whatever it is, it's looking at other people can be inspiration as well. It doesn't need to be, yeah. And like you said, it just depends on where your consciousness is at. Like if you're feeling bad about yourself, like, oh, they're that, and I'm not, I'm less than, it's like, it just, there's a line of where you're using it as like something to propel you forward and something to inspire you. It's like, oh, I want to aspire to be not that person. You want to be that version of you, but it can be inspiration rather than you know, bringing up feelings of lack. But yeah, we'll talk about that in part 2 with the self-worth.
Yeah. And you know what also plays into it is when we bring it back to the core of, you know, spiritual teachings and Neville's teachings as well, if we remind ourselves, you know, it's all one. We're all one. There is actually no separation. So when you're in the state of, you know, competition, you're actually in a state of fear where you're fearing somebody else taking something away from you that, you know, you want to have, or where you fear not being good enough. Where you have like fears and doubts in general come in. It's just, you know, then you're looking at it through the lens of separation. You think it's you against the world. And this is a human thing as well, you know. I think it's important to acknowledge, like, this is normal, like we all get this, and it's more important not to get caught up in it rather than to eliminate it.
Right. Yeah. And that kind of moves us to our next point, which was competition versus collaboration. And obviously this is a good example of that. Like we technically would be each other's competition, but we view it in a different way, where it's like, it's what it really comes down to is abundance versus lack. And it's like, there's enough room for everybody, not even like, not just in this niche, but in life in general, and like in the world, like it's just a shift of the way you think of it. Like there's enough room for everybody to succeed. It's not like your success doesn't take away from mine and my success doesn't take away from yours. It's like we each have our own light that shines, you know, in a unique way. And we can, you know, collab. Like you said, we're all one. So it's like your success is my success, you know?
Yeah. And it's actually quite magical because we're all one. And it's, you know, in A Course in Miracles, it actually says, you know, we're all healing together. We're all losing together. You know, it's we're either all winning together or we're all losing together. It's not like one person wins and the other person loses, because it's all one. But at the same time, you made a good point there as well about, you know, you said like we all shine our light in our own unique way. And that's what is always helping me when I keep falling into this trap of comparing myself to others, because you know, it still comes up sometimes, especially if I'm not feeling super secure within myself. And what helped me shift that was realizing, and, you know, now it's completely transformed. My perception has completely transformed from looking at somebody else and being like, they are better than me or they are more successful than me, going, well, actually, they're completely different than me. the people that they attract are completely different from the people that I attract. Mm-hmm. And this is why I've, completely dropped this notion of competition, because, and why, like I want to collaborate more. And this is the same, if we use us as an example, I could look at you and I could go, well, we're working in the same niche. And so, if she has more clients, or if she gets more success or whatever, I could see you as competition. But actually, I don't see it that way, because I know the clients that you attract are not the ones that I attract, and the other way around. Like, right. It's not, we're not even looking for the same people, and the same people are not attracted to us.
Yeah.
It's like, because we're unique. Mm-hmm. And that's the beautiful thing. Like, we're all one and we can all support each other, but that only works because we're all different.
Yes.
So it's not a disadvantage. It's actually a beautiful thing.
And it's kind of a paradox, because it's like, mm-hmm. we're all different, but yet we're all the same.
But you know what? Isn't reality a paradox? Yeah. It's like, it's all a paradox. It's like everything exists at the same time. Two things can be true at the same time, because it's all a matter of how you look at it.
Yeah, they're not mutually exclusive. They can happen at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What plays into this idea of, there is no separation too. I feel like when people, and we've discussed this before, when we decided to do this collaboration, that sometimes when people look at coaches, they see them as, better than them, or they, turn them into this guru, or even people turn Neville into a guru.
Yeah.
Like, they turn Neville into some sort of god, whereas he was human too, he had his own stuff going on. And I think that's really important to emphasize as well, that, everyone should be their own guru. Like, nobody should look at somebody else and think they're better or more advanced, or they've got it all together, because nobody's got it all together.
Yeah. The idea of the pedestal, right? The putting, and it's not just coaches. I mean, obviously that happens, but just anybody that you view as better than you in any type of way. I've had to learn this lesson more than once, and it will, I don't know, it just, you get this idea of somebody, and then it's just like, it comes crashing down. So yeah, remembering that it's a paradox again, because it's seeing yourself as God and seeing others as God, right? But also that we're all human as well. So like, we all have our own like flaws, and nobody's perfect. Yeah. And this idea of like, okay, take the coach or whoever it is that you have on your SP, or whoever it is that you have on this pedestal that you think is above you. And there's like these different ideas of like, oh, take them off the pedestal, so that you're level, I guess. And then, or it's like, raise yourself up to the level. But, and then the other one is like, take everybody off and then you're on this pedestal, which I don't necessarily agree with, because
no, I don't either.
It's like this idea of like, oh, you're looking down at all these peasants. It's like, you're some sort of like superhuman. Like, the idea
that's such an ego perspective of saying I am God. Like, I am God doesn't mean like you're better than others and everybody else is not real, or
Yeah. And side note to on that, it's like, that tends to be some sort of train of thought that happens in this community, where I am God of my reality, and what I say go, and like, just in a very aggressive way, where it's like, you're not collaborating, you're not like seeing others as, one consciousness, and everybody is connected. It's like, oh, my way, like, it just, it seems a little unhealthy.
Absolutely. But that's exactly the thing. Where is this coming from? This is all coming from ego, like idea of pedestal, like whichever way around, It's all coming from ego, and it's sneaky, the ego is like sneaky. And that's, I think, how this happens, how people who then have this sort of awakening, and who do realize the immense power they have, that then, the ego sneaks in and then it's like, I am better than everybody else. And, it goes either way. The ego is either always trying to, make yourself, like, put yourself above others.
Yeah.
or it's putting yourself down.
Yeah.
So you feel like you can't live up to, where others are at. You will never be good enough. So it's like either way, it's this, it comes from separation. So whenever somebody or something comes from fear or separation, that's a sure sign, okay, this is actually coming from your ego. And that's okay. Egos are great. We need them, but we need this awareness around when that is happening. And then we can make a conscious choice. Where do I want to go from here? Do I want to stay in this idea of competition, or do I want to shift my perception and actually go, how can I collaborate here? And what also just comes to mind is seemingly unrelated, but yeah, I just thought of it, just evolution. And when Darwin created this whole theory, he thought it was based on competition, but now we've actually proven over and over again that it's actually all about collaboration. Other animals and humans thrive when we work together,
Yes,
not when we work against each other.
Yes. Hi, Otis.
That's my baby. My son.
That's why I really love A Course in Miracles, because it kind of is taking apart the ego and kind of making you really see it.
Yeah.
Just side note, I've not finished it, but that's what I really
I haven't either. I keep taking breaks. I've actually, now I'm doing a new thing where I just open a random page every day.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm like on day 23.
But speaking of A Course in Miracles, I think what also plays into this a little bit is forgiveness, and that's a big topic in A Course in Miracles. And the reason I find forgiveness so important when it comes to this is just due to my own personal experience, where I've had someone, and I don't want to go into too much detail here, where there has been this immense energy of competition, and it created a lot of it almost created like a rupture where I would feel guilty, I would feel shameful for having these thoughts and feelings, and I would also feel that then from the other person, obviously. And it was just this, it created a lot of anger, resentment. So all these icky feelings came with it because I was so caught up, and not just me, it goes both ways, in this energy of competition. So I think when you go down that rabbit hole, and when you get stuck in that spiral, and you have maybe one person, like be that, a third party, or, a competition in your career, or whatever it is, somebody who wants the same house you want to put an offer in for, whatever. If you go really deep into that spiral, forgiveness is really powerful. Forgive yourself for going down there and, having all these things come up. Forgive yourself for it, because you're human. And also forgive this other person for however they act.
I think that forgiveness is so underrated, and it can be in any situation. It just dissolves. It just dissolves any negative feeling that you may have. It's like, oh, no, I forgive you. I forgive myself. It's like, if you can just go right to forgiveness, you'll save yourself so much heartache and time. So
unfortunately, it's not that easy or
no, but
I feel like it's such a long process, especially depending on what's been going on and why you need to forgive.
Yes. But if you can remember it in a moment of hardship, it's even just I don't know. We can talk about that in maybe part 2, but yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
What else have we got here? Okay, so our next point: jealousy and insecurity, and how to deal with insecurities. So if you're experiencing jealousy or insecurity, you're in separation and lack. That's what it comes down to. So when you see somebody else having a success, are you genuinely happy for that person? Or do you feel something inside that's like a pang of, a negative feeling of like, oh, I'm not good enough. Why can't I have that? It's not fair. When those things are coming up, then there's something within yourself that needs to be looked at. It needs some attention. It needs some love, and it needs some self-work. What does that even mean, right? We can talk that.
Some healing. Let's use that phrase. Some healing.
Healing. Yes. Yeah.
But gentler.
Yes. So going back to this, we're all one, right? So the healing part, it's like, it's easy for somebody to say, oh, you need to heal, or you need to do some inner work. It is work, and it does take time. Like, it's not an overnight thing, but we know everyone is pushed out. So when you are, whatever feeling that you're having towards another, when you see someone else having success, or something that you want, having something that you want that you don't have yet, which whatever you feel towards another person is actually what you're feeling towards yourself, because that person is not separate from you. So this idea, it kind of, we hear it over and over and over again. Everyone's pushed out. Okay, what does that mean? Like, the separate entities of like my personality and your personality, or whoever you're you're looking at them with envy or jealousy. It's an illusion, right? Like, they're not actually separate. It's all an illusion. So if you can really see through that illusion and see that person as God, the more that you can celebrate other people's success, the more that you're lifting that person up genuinely, it will lift yourself up genuinely.
Yeah, I agree. And I think at the same time, it's also sometimes possible that, you are happy for somebody else and you still feel that jealousy. Right. And that sometimes even then creates this guilt that you're like, you can't be as happy for this other person as you would like to be, because you're happy for them. But at the same time, it's very noticeable to you that I don't have that and I want that. So again, both can exist at the same time. But yeah, you're exactly right. Everyone is pushed out. And I think what plays into this as well, and you touched on this, is that something that I'm very fond of is shadow work, which is a term coined by Carl Jung. And, in shadow work, your shadow is, that's all the aspects of yourself that you would rather keep hidden from others, and sometimes even from yourself. So that isn't all negative stuff. That can also be your hidden potential. So I think that often comes out when we're jealous of other people, because that shows us how we could be or what we could achieve, but what we keep hidden out of fear for, fear of being seen, fear of failure, fear of judgment, whatever those fears are. So we keep it hidden. So it's actually a part of ourselves that we see reflected, our own potential that we see reflected in this other person. And that's why this technique that you said earlier, see it as inspiration. That's why that's so powerful, because it's already your potential as it is. Otherwise you wouldn't feel jealous. Wouldn't feel jealous if, if somebody has something that you don't want, then you don't care. Then you're not going to feel jealous. You only feel jealous if you've got that potential in you too, and you're just not expressing it right now, or it's just not, physically manifested yet. So it's the most beautiful thing that you can do is to look at that person and to just go, oh, thank you so much for inspiring me. Thank you so much for showing me what's possible for me.
Yes. I love that. It's so beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Beating jealousy through collaboration and unity. With that said, my last point was with that jealousy and insecurity part is it just all starts within. And then that kind of brings us to part two. Part two, will be on Lorena's channel. So we will see you over on Lorena's channel for part two. And thank you so much, Lorena, for doing this with me. It's been amazing. And thank you for having me as a guest. Okay, bye everybody. Thanks so much.
Bye.